Hello friends, it's going to be a bit of a different one today. There's no cash tray, there's no fat lady, and there's no toast. There is a beautiful candle, smells delicious. I've got some really cool and exciting items to show you. You may know what they are. And then I've got my tablet here so that I can show you the story of how we designed the engagement ring that I'm wearing. So, I don't really know where to start with this video. Normally I don't put a whole lot of thought into my videos and the intros or anything because I'm just putting cash in envelopes. It's not that complicated, but it's a bit different today because this is a very exciting and lovely story. So I think I'll start with a quick background about me and my fiance because I think it's a bit of a funny story. So how we met is I moved out of my parents during the pandemic. My parents live in a more rural area of Dublin and I was working in Dublin, which is the capital. So did I say a more rural area of Dublin? I meant to say a more rural area of Ireland, and I was working in Dublin. We were getting back to a stage where we were going to have to start commuting to work and it was just going to be really difficult for me, so decided to move out of my parents' house. But as you may know of rent prices and housing prices in Dublin, it's absolutely insane. So when I moved out, I needed to have roommates, which was okay, that was fine. So I moved into a house with 3 other people, and the first roommate that I had, kind of technically, was my fiance. And yeah, we were really good friends at the start, but obviously it didn't take long for us to realize that we both really liked each other, and clearly a little bit more than liked. So that is how we met. We were friends and we lived together before we ever were together. So I mean, that's hopefully promising, right? So we were together for about a year and a half, I want to say, before my fiance is not very good at keeping secrets. He gets very excited over things and yeah, not great for keeping presents hidden or anything like that. Not great for just keeping big secrets in general. And he's not very subtle either. So, and unfortunately as well, I am an intensive people reader. So even if you're not like tiny bit not subtle around me, I'll read your mind. So about a year and a half in, he was not, I don't want to say acting strange. He wasn't acting strange, but he was asking strange questions. Just kind of random ones here and there about, you know, do you wear rings? Like, do you know your ring size? And obviously it doesn't take a genius. But obviously I kind of realised that this was something that might be on the cards, but I didn't say anything. I kept my mouth shut, which is very hard for me to do, but I kept my mouth shut. And from there, how I discovered that a proposal was being planned, because I did ruin my own proposal, was there was one day we were in the car and I was driving, he was on his phone, and when I looked to the side I could see he was looking at something on his phone and I thought it looked very familiar, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was thinking about it later on, and just as I was thinking about it, he mentioned that maybe we should go to this hotel for our 2-year anniversary. And it was the first hotel that we ever visited together because we did meet during the pandemic when a lot of hotels weren't open. So the first place that we got to go was a lovely place in Mayo, which is the west of Ireland. And yeah, that was our first, we had lived together, but that was our first time ever going away together. That wasn't the house. So once he said that, everything clicked, that what he had been looking at on his phone was the availability of that hotel for our 2-year anniversary. And at this point, I still really tried my best to keep my mouth shut, but I could not stop smiling. So I had like the Cheshire cat grin ear to ear, and he was freaking out. He was like, what is it? What is going on? What do you know? And I wasn't going to say anything. And he pushed me. And I was like, I just think I know what's going on. And he was like, oh no, I can't keep a secret. I've ruined it. And I was like, no, you haven't ruined it. And he was like, you know what? It's actually not a bad thing that you know, because I need your advice on the ring and stuff. And I was like, that's fair, because anybody in my life that knows me knows I'm an incredibly particular person. And it is probably just best to get me in on things that you're planning. I will be happy with anything, but I mean, for something like an engagement ring, for me, yeah, it's probably best to get my advice anyway. So he did the right thing. And what happened then? So there wasn't really much mention of it after that, bar one conversation in which he was asking me what would my preferences be, I suppose. And he then mentioned that he wanted to get a gold ring and that he would like for the gem in the ring to be green. And I had no issues with that whatsoever, for a multitude of reasons. One, gold and green is kind of an Irish thing, so I'm really happy with that. I am Irish. Secondly, emerald. This isn't an emerald, I'll get into it, but emerald is my birthstone because my birthday is in May, and also my favourite colour is green, and I only wear gold jewellery. So I was delighted with that. I thought that was absolutely perfect. So I then got into a stage of looking at some rings to try and figure out what my preferences would be. And then my fiance then did his own research. And yeah, there was no conversation after that point for about another 6 months. And I will show you the sort of things I was looking at to start with so that you can see where my inspiration was coming from. So this was one of the first items that I saw that I really liked when I looked up gold rings with a green gem. And this website, Laminated, had really good prices, but I was really nervous about, pointing out to my fiance or anything, because even if it's a really good price for a ring, it's still expensive, and they were coming from the US, so you're going to have to pay customs on them. And then if it's not right or you don't like it, then there's a whole ship back process. It's going to be a nightmare. So that was my first piece of inspiration. I've never really worn rings up until this point. I've said before, this is an OURA ring, and sometimes I wear a couple of rings for cash stuffing, but not that often. And I've never really worn a ring that has, like a gem or a jewel on it. Never worn a diamond ring or anything like it. So this was completely new territory to me. But I knew that I wanted something with, a centerpiece and some interest on the sides. But I thought this was a good place to start. But this was a bit too simple for me. This was the second bit of inspiration. I really liked this one. I liked the contrast of not the shape, but the contrast between, they're circular, or I don't know what you call that shape of, they're the circular kind of round stones, but they kind of almost look square from the settings around it. So I thought this one was really nice as well. So at this point I had my heart set on a round stone. I really amn't a fan of ovals, but I thought I really wanted a round stone until I saw this picture. And this kind of brought me down an oval route where I thought this could be really nice. So the other part of this that I had to consider is that what the wedding ring would look like. And this is my inspiration for the wedding ring. I really, really love this. I love the simplicity of it. I love that it joins in with the engagement ring, but still really wasn't set on the ovals. And I feel like what's going on over on this side is a bit too much side interest for me. So at this point, I then found this picture, and this kicked me off into space. I loved this, but this was a pear shape, and I had not considered pear at all. The only person I've ever seen wear pear shaped anything was my granny. And so that kind of made me think that, is that a really old style? Like maybe it wouldn't be great for me. I'm not sure. Maybe I'd be better off with a round ring. But this is where the thought of a pear shape sat into my mind. And I kept dismissing it, but it kept popping back. Again, I liked this kind of, I think these might be called, I could get this wrong, I think they're marquise shaped. They're pointy ovals kind of. But this was, again, a little bit too much side interest for me. But look at this. So my thoughts for my wedding ring is I think this is opal. I think for my wedding ring, I will look at opal and rose quartz. I'm not a big fan of diamonds. There are diamonds on my ring, but they're the side pieces. I much prefer, these are much more interesting to me. So this is why my inspiration was coming from here. So at this point, I had shown these pictures to my fiance over a few weeks, and he was like, okay, say no more, I'm on it. And yeah, that there was no more mention of it for, I want to say, about 4 or 5 months. So it was completely out of my mind. We were still a good 6 months off our 2-year anniversary. So it wasn't completely out of my mind. I knew that there may be a proposal, but it wasn't something I was actively thinking about. And then randomly one day he said to keep a certain Sunday free. And I just thought we were going on a date because it was kind of around the time of our half-year anniversary that I've talked about before. So I just thought we were going to do something for that. Didn't think about it whatsoever until the week before. And something just clicked in my head. And now, to be fair to him, he did really, really well with keeping this from me. But what he had done is he had gone and booked us an appointment with a bespoke jewellers in Dublin. And we were going to meet them to discuss the designing of the ring. And it was an incredible experience. It was so much fun. It was so different. It was so interesting. I can't wait to go back and do the wedding rings. But I'm going to talk you through the process of how that went, because it was mind-blowing to me, and I just think it's great. So this is actually off the website of the place we went. So the place that we went to is called Bespoke Diamonds. They're amazing. They're based in Dublin 2, I think it is. And yeah, just really professional, really lovely. It's a really special experience to have, I think. Like the really cool memories to have of designing the ring together. So the reason I've pulled up this one is when we go into the room, we kind of discuss a little bit about what we want. And at this stage, what we knew we wanted was a gold ring with a green gem. And when I'm saying green gem now, but at the time we were saying emerald. That we wanted emerald. That was the end of it. It's my birthstone. I'm Irish. It worked perfect. It had to be a gold ring with an emerald. So what the lady did in there was she gave us a tray full of rings, and she said, take the ones out that you've no interest in and give them back to me. And I ended up with maybe 2 or 3 left in the box that I was interested in the shape of. And what we were doing was we were selecting the setting. So this was the ring that I was left with at the end, which you can see is quite similar to mine. So this was the setting. So this came with a round diamond, 2 baguette-shaped diamonds on the side. I couldn't get that word out. And then 2 round shapes on the very outer side. I do. So this is it from the side. So you can see that this, it's quite raised off the finger. So this is what the setting looked like from this angle. And then finally from the side, which is quite similar to mine as well. So this was the setting that we decided on. And then at this point, she dashed all my hopes and dreams because she showed me what a real emerald looks like. So I got this picture on the day. It's not the best picture in the world, but this over here was an emerald. And this over here was something called a savorite, which I'd never heard of before. But basically what we learned is that when you Google emerald, they show you really dark green jewels, but those are either incredibly rare or I don't know what they are. But she basically told us that emeralds in general are a kind of a lighter green than what you would expect to see. But this savorite over here was exactly what I had in mind. However, it did take me about 2 weeks to come around to it because I had in my head that this gem was going to be an emerald, and the significance of emerald to my life was very hard for me to let go of. Eventually I did just come to the realization that it's just a colour and it's just a rock. It doesn't matter. But for a while it was getting to me because this is what, and there's no significance to these shapes here. This is just what she had on hand to show us. This was a much lighter green than this, and it just wasn't, I didn't want to have an emerald that didn't look like what was in my mind. So yeah, this was a struggle for like a couple of weeks, but ended up coming around anyway. It was going to be a Tsavorite, so that was no issue. But just in case you're looking at emeralds and you're offered a Tsavorite, it might blow your mind a bit too. However, something that is cool about it is that emeralds are actually quite fragile, and chances are if you get a ring with an emerald in it, you may have to replace it at some point because they chip and they crack, and they're not they're not the most robust of gems. But a Tsavorite is actually quite hard. It is very beautiful and they're rarer than emeralds, but there's just no demand for them because people don't know about them, and I think they're only found in a region in Africa so far is the only place they've found them. So that is very interesting. So after deciding on the ring setting and the gem, I then had decided that the ring that I was looking at was beautiful, but there wasn't enough interest to the eye for me. So I decided that I was going to go for the pear and try a pear shape because you only live once and this ring will be on my hand for the rest of my life. So I wanted it to be interesting. And especially with the wedding ring that I showed you, I thought, so the wedding ring will sit down along this side and it'll be pointing off in the other direction. I just thought that that was really what I liked. So what happens at this point is the bespoke diamonds, they will go and make a 3D render of what you've discussed. So this is what the 3D render came back looking like. So I had a couple of issues with this. The gems are perfect, the diamonds perfect, loved everything about that. However, what was getting to me is all of these gold prongs. This one here and these two here were taking away too much for me. I feel like, obviously this is a very blown up picture of a 3D render, but they're just taking up so much space that I wasn't really enjoying it. And then over here, there were all of these buttons. And the buttons were killing me because what I loved about this ring is the contrast of the shapes in the gems, and when you put all these buttons everywhere, you can't even see the true shape of the gem. So that was really bothering me. So what we decided to do was get wax models. Yes, this is the one. So I'm not going to put it on. They are made out of wax. They're quite fragile, but they send you a few of them to try it on your finger, which is pretty cool. So this is what we ended up with first. So this is the representation of this one here. So as you can see, my concerns, this little pointy bit up the top and all these buttons, I feel like they're just taking away from the overall shape that I had been imagining. So that was the first wax that we got. So we got the picture, we got the waxes, and at this point I was like, I love it, but I need some changes. So what I did was I looked up this. So this was literally just a Google search. I wanted to know what are the options that you can have for enclosing a gem into a ring. And this looks to be what was on the ring already. So it was, you know, basket or decorative typed, and I didn't really like those. What I did like was the look of the V prong. Mostly my issue was around the baguette diamonds, that I didn't want so many circles around the baguettes. So I was looking at V prong and bar channel, and I decided to go for bar / channel, which is just, rather than having a couple of little dots around it, it's just being encased by 2 gold pieces. I don't have the vocabulary for this, but yeah, so that's what we decided. I didn't mind the dots around the round stones at the sides, but that is what I wanted for the baguettes. And then for the pear itself, this was the picture that I sent back. So you can see I drew around the baguettes, and then I added in claw-shaped prongs to hold it in. So I didn't know if we could I wanted to get rid of this altogether, and I thought the best way to do that would be have 3 claws. We went for a second meeting in Bespoke Diamonds, and they explained that the best way would be to have 2 claw prongs here, and then we could do 1 claw prong down the middle. So with that, they said they would then get us a new wax model. So this is the updated design. So the only thing is with the 3D models that you can't do a 3D model of claw prongs, but that was fine. So where you see the buttons on the pear shape, those are claw prongs. The bar channel prongs on the, or setting on the baguette side stones, and then there is still dots around the round ones on the outside, but you can barely see them because they're not everywhere now. So this was the one that they gave me, and I really like the look of this one. So the next issue I ran into was when we were asked what size did we want the Savorite to be in the middle. So this is the one I had been looking at, which actually in this picture they do have all the correct settings and the claw prongs here. They couldn't 3D a claw prong up top, but that's fine because I got it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But then they also showed me the bigger one. And this is a whole thing that we have to go through then, because I thought that maybe the bigger would be better. So they sent us a load of comparison pictures to show us, you know, the sizes between each, and the pictures were doing nothing for me. There was no way I was going to be able to decide. So they sent us wax models of both, which I'll show you. So they gave us 2, I have these wedged onto this hand, and I'm not going to keep them on for long because the wax doesn't like body heat that much. But what you can see is this is the smaller one on top and this is the bigger one on the bottom. So it's so funny because in some ways there's very little difference in the size, but also in some ways there's a massive difference. So I was looking at the bigger one thinking maybe this is better. I did end up in the end going for the smaller one because when I think about it, the wedding ring I want is going to add a lot more space to the overall setting. Hopefully I don't break these. And I don't, oh, I think I just did break that. I heard a click. I don't want there to be all of the real estate on my finger taken up in case I did ever want to add another ring, or just in general, the way the anatomy of my hands is, I have very long fingers and I feel like I wear this chunky ring because it's for health reasons. However, I like my fingers to stay looking long, and my thought was when there is a ring, the wedding ring on this side, there's probably going to be about this much of my hand taken up, and I don't want it to make my hands look shorter. So that was the thought behind going for the smaller ring. And then at this point, we have the finished result. So my fiance went and picked this up. He proposed on our 2-year anniversary in the hotel, which was the first place that we ever went together. I'm not going to share the full proposal story because it's very personal to us, but it was amazing. And yeah, that's everything I want to share about that. But this is the final result of the ring. So it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm so happy that I went with the smaller size because I do think that I would have regretted getting a bigger size, especially once I have the wedding ring. It's the exact look of the one that I'd originally tried on, but with all of the things that I wanted. You can see the claw prongs, the channel, the bar or channel prongs as well, and then the dots around the round. And then I just have a few little funny pictures to show you. So I just have some really great pictures that my fiance took up close the day after we got engaged of the ring, which is super up close and personal on my knuckles. Apologies, but there you can even see all the little hairs on my finger. But there's these are just like the best pictures that I have of it, and I don't know if my phone will do it justice when it comes to these videos, so I just wanted to show you guys this. And then just a little funny follow-up is my fiance thought that this looked like a crown, and so he had a very fun evening of drawing a face on his finger and wearing the ring as a crown. And I have lots of these because he was at it for a while. So many pictures. And just in case you think like that I'm a lot more mature than he is, I made this cape. So I just don't want anybody getting the stories mixed up here. I was very much in on this, and yes, I made the cape for the king. So that is everything for my story. I will leave you with this. I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe a lengthy video. I'm really not sure how long this is going to be of me talking about the ring and everything, but it was requested and I was more than happy to do it. And hopefully, it'll probably be a few years, but you are going to watch me stuff for this wedding, and I can hopefully take you through the journey of me designing the wedding ring when the time comes as well. So yeah, thank you so much guys, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye!